So, which bit's the penis?
So the penis is over here. It's this bit here.
Right. I'll talk quietly. I don't want to waste it. How important are the words in a Shakespeare's play? Like, could you do it without the words?
Without the words, there isn't much left, to be honest. I think probably that's the bedrock of what we do.
This is a flaccid penis, so for sexual intercourse, it has to become erect.
So what happens then? What bit goes where?
So this penis needs to become erect, and then it will be put into the vagina here during intercourse, and he's going to ejaculate sperm through his penis and then into the woman's vagina.
Christ. I hope nothing like that ever happens to me. The Victorians had horse-drawn buses, but you never see horses drawing anything these days, do you? When did they lose the ability to draw? Is it when their hands sort of turned into hooves?
When we talk about horse-drawn buses, we're not really talking about horses drawing buses, but pulling them along. So that's the meaning of the word draw in this instance.
Right.
And that stopped really once we had the railways and then even more the engines.
After he died, Jesus came back to earth in the form of a book, didn't he? Why do Christians call that special book the Bible?
The Bible.
Is that how it's pronounced? I've literally never heard anyone say it before. How do you say it?
Bible.
So why is it spelt Bible? Because I've seen it written down, B-I-B-L-E.
Yeah,
Bible.
Bible.
Why do we say people are facing the electric chair when they've got their backs to it?
Well, I think you're taking it too literally there. What we mean by facing the electric chair is facing an inevitable death.
Celts famously would, the warriors would strip naked, paint themselves in designs, and go into battle naked. They believed that by painting themselves in designs, that they were calling out to their gods up in the sky for protection and for courage and for help.
Did the Romans have chainmail then?
They had armour of a sort.
They had armour and they were naked.
Yeah.
Who won?
Well,
The Romans.
The Romans won in the end.
I knew it. I bet when the Celts turned up naked and saw what the Romans had on, I bet they were kicking themselves. I bet they felt stupid. I bet they were like, who suggested this? Did the Mesopotamians have any of the same things that we have today?
Yes.
Like what?
Weapons, jewellery, temples, animals.
Oh, right. No,
food.
I meant like feet and eyebrows and that sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
They did?
They had the whole set of organs, holes, bits that work together, bits on the outside, bits on the inside.
So they had the same number of holes and everything?
As far as science is in a position to reassure you, yes.
Who's the most famous existentialist in history?
Probably Jean-Paul Sartre.
Right. See, I'd have said it was E.T.
Were all the audiences really rowdy then, you know? Did they wear tunics and have mud on their faces?
The audiences ranged from the ordinary common working people who'd stand around the theatre here, and then they would range to the aristocrats who would sit at the top of the theatre.
Right, so some of them had to stand up, they didn't have chairs?
No, they would be standing.
I've never had to stand for a whole Shakespeare. I don't think I could do it. I'd be livid if I didn't have a chair.
I think the audiences quite enjoy it, I mean, particularly now.
I don't think they do enjoy standing, do they?
They actually enjoy the experience of standing.
Who's told you that?
They say the Great Wall of China is the only landmark audible from space.
Yeah, you can't hear it. And they say that you can see it from space, but it's not true.
So
They've tried.
You can't see it from space.
Chinese astronauts have tried to see the Great Wall, and they can't.
They can't see it.
No, yeah,
So it's invisible. It's an invisible wall, like a force field.
It's only invisible from space. On the ground, you can certainly see it.
That's so weird, isn't it? Is that one of the great mysteries? And do we know if China has a roof? Is there a great roof of China?
No great roof.
What the fuck is this?
Well, it's a scene of imagination, but it's not a scene that Bruegel would have actually witnessed.
I mean, but it could happen, couldn't it?
No, it couldn't happen.
Misinformation is getting so sophisticated, it's terrifying.
It was a big deal, wasn't it, when they got trains to run on steam?
Where did they get the steam that powered the trains back then? Did they have to sort of mine it from underground, or did they get it from the sky?
Well, you can actually make steam by boiling water. So what they're doing is using the coal to boil the water and make the steam that way.
Right, so clouds are made of boiling water. Why don't planes boil then when we fly through them?
I think you probably want to speak to a meteorologist about the clouds.
Okay.
Will there ever come a time where we need 2 mouses to work a computer?
I don't think so. I think it's more likely that there'll be a time when you don't need any mouses. Things are moving now towards touchscreens, gesture recognition, brain-computer interfaces.
So what's that?
It's where you can sense, to an extent, what someone is thinking.
Like Darren Brown?
Not as well as that.
Right.
Well, not yet, anyway.
Paul McKenna?
You might be able to make the cursor say the mouse pointer go left or right.
Just by thinking, go right?
Yeah, that's about where the technology is.
But how can it do that? How will it know? I don't understand.
It's possible to get some information about what your brain is doing by things like encephalograms done in a hospital.
What?
Encephalograms.
Say it again.
Encephalograms.
Say it again.
Encephalograms.
Right.
So you can get some information about what your thoughts are doing through that kind of interface, which maybe means you're sticking electrodes on your head at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's early days.
That's amazing, isn't it? Would you get one of those?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why does the electric chair only do one person at a time? Could you have an electric bench that does about 7 in one go?
You probably could. You definitely shouldn't.
Would be quicker though, and you can do them in batches.
It would be quicker, but we'd have to accept that the death penalty was a sensible and useful thing to do.
I heard that at the early Olympics, athletes had to compete in the nude.
So they did compete naked, and there are writings about this being quite an erotic sight in some cases.
With wrestling, with all that wriggling about, they'd have seen right up their bumholes and everything. Couldn't they censor it for people watching it in the auditorium, modesty patches or something? Or ask people to close their eyes each time someone bends over?
I think that probably wouldn't have worked.
But you'd have seen right up their bumholes.
In some cases, people might have done.
Did Zeus really approve of that?
Electrocuting people isn't very eco-friendly, is it? Could we steam them to death instead?
I'm sure there are other ways of administering the death penalty that might be more eco-friendly. I think the preference would be to not do it at all.
What do we mean by the word Tudor?
The word Tudor is quite controversial because the Tudors at the time didn't call themselves Tudor. Tudor is the family name, the Welsh family name of the ancestors on the father's side of King Henry VII. But the only person who calls Henry VII Henry Tudor is Richard III when he's trying to stop him becoming king. And he uses the name Tudor just to mean this is some random Welsh person rather than an appropriate person to replace me as king. So the Tudors don't use the name Tudor very much at all. Some people refer to it as being their family name later on.
Sorry, I had that thing, you know, where your brain stops listening.
How do you know cats aren't thinking about their existence? They might be really anxious, and when they say meow, they're expressing their own pain like meow.
Well, cats have pain. They don't behave in a way that seems to suggest a level of self-consciousness.
Cats lick their own bumholes, don't they? Are all existentialists supple enough to do that?
No.
Which was more culturally significant, the Renaissance or Single Ladies by Beyoncé?
They both have their period. They both have their time. Beyonce I'm rather fond of, but what the Renaissance was trying to do was to reform culture as a whole, and whatever Beyonce does, I don't think she's quite got that ambition.
So what, the work of a few straight white men just blows Beyonce out of the water? Is that what you're saying, on camera?
What sort of people come to see Shakespeare today? Is it mainly people who wear glasses?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a few people that wear glasses that come to see it. Yeah, I think all kinds of people come to see it.
But a lot of short-sighted people.
Possibly. Not a lot, though.
Yeah, loads, loads. I was looking around. About 80% of the audience were wearing glasses.
I doubt that.
You're saying I'm a liar?
No, I just said I doubt that 80% of the audience were wearing glasses.
I think they were.
Right.
What was Renaissance? Was that a sort of 16th century ketchup?
Renaissance comes from the French. It's Renaissance, naissance. Naissance is birth, so it was seen as a rebirth.
So it's not a condiment at all?
No, not as far as I know.
OK. What sources did they use back then?
So this is an area of culinary history I'm not very familiar with, the history of sauces.
Oh, so you're not the sauce person?
I'm not predominantly a sauce person.
We're going to have to rethink this whole interview. Do we know for certain the dragon was threatening St. George? Or do we just jump to conclusions because of the way the dragon looked?
The story of St. George killing the dragon isn't actually true because there are no dragons.
After he killed the dragon, how was he rewarded? I mean, what's better than a saint?
Well, he didn't kill the dragon because dragons don't exist. It's made up.
But is it true to say he was the greatest Englishman who ever lived?
The thing about St. George is that he wasn't actually English. His father came from the middle of what's now Turkey, and his mother came from Palestine, and he never actually came to England.
Oh, you're joking. Have any of the cave paintings been adapted into films? I suppose they couldn't get the rights anyway, though, could they?
Filmmaking obviously arose much, much later than the end of the cave paintings.
So there hasn't been like a cave wall that's been like, oh my God, that's an incredible story. We need to get Steven Spielberg to make this.
It would be hard to come up with a story that would last an hour and a half based on just one panel in a cave.
So nihilism is the view that nothing, absolutely nothing, matters.
Why don't people mention the nihilists on their dating profiles? I went on a date with a bloke, and 20 minutes in, he said he was a nihilist, and that because human existence is futile, there was no point continuing with the date, and he left. And I had to pay. Was he a nihilist or just a prick?
Probably both.
Yeah, as I suspected.